Everyone, welcome to the final day of Vivekananda Youth Leadership Convention 2013. Hope you have enjoyed various seminars and events organized under the convention. Today amongst us, we have Dr. Raju Narayana Swamy, who is the Civil Supplies Commissioner under the Government of Kerala. Dr. Swamy is known for his exceptional academic records and uncompromising stand against corruption. In 1983, he stood first in Kerala in secondary school leaving certificate examination. 2 years later, he came out first in the predegree examination in MG University. Dr. Swamy obtained his bachelor's degree in computer science and engineering from the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. He also secured the first rank in the GATE. In 1991, he obtained the first rank in civil services examination and entered the Indian Administrative Service. In August 2011, he was conferred the degree of Doctor of Philosophy by Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. Now, I would like to kindly request Dr. Swamy to come on the stage and share his wisdom with us. So, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And today in the evening, as I stand before you, I literally feel like a boat drawn on the beach, listening to the dance music of a joyous ride. I'm all the more happy to stand on the portals of this august institution, which has left behind its footprints on the sands of time. It gives me even more happiness that I am here to attend the Swami Vivekananda Memorial Youth Convention. The youth, it is said, is a gay and pleasant spring of life with joy stirring in its dancing blood. The time when nature invites one with 1,000 songs to share her general feast. It is also said that youth are the buds of today and the flowers of tomorrow. But the question is how to ensure that these buds bloom into full-fledged flowers. It is in this context that I would like to start by quoting none other than Rama Bijapurkar, the NCAER chairperson, who said, "Consumer India is a hydra-headed monster, or a many-splendid thing, depending upon the beholder's point of view, and it often begs the question, which India and whose India are we talking about?" There is an India whose proud inhabitants enjoy a higher per capita income than Brazil. A larger one that is slightly poorer than Indonesia. But there is also a third one, more than double in size of the sum of the first two, which is as poor as Bangladesh. Consumers in India, most of them do not work in the organized sector. Their well-being cannot be discerned from the subjective data maintained by Indian corporate houses. What makes them spend is actually a financial misoptimism that something, somewhere, somehow would work out. Friends, this brings forward the great concept of CSR, that is citizen social responsibility, as opposed to corporate social responsibility. Successfully building a culture of CSR, as Japan and even Bangladesh have demonstrated, is often centuries in the making. But if the education that you receive from this institution should stand for humanism, for tolerance, for adventure of ideas, for search for truth, that is the definition of a university given by none other than Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in his famous Allahabad convocation address. I am sure that each and every one of us should address these questions. What our country has invested in us and what we can give back to the nation. It is herein that the famous words of Kunti Devi, wherein she advises Rajya Dharma to her eldest son Yudhishthira. I would like to quote from the Mahabharata. It says, "Nivartaswa Kurukshetra Bhima Senadibhissaha Dharmete Thiyatam Buddhi Namaste Mahadastucha." It basically means that the real yardstick of a good administration is whether governed are happy, not whether the rulers are happy. This is what you mean when you say Bate Pele in South Africa, for the people. So if democracy is a government of the people, for the people, and by the people, the real challenge before you and me today is to make a frontal assault on the citadels of the neglect of the rural dimensions in the development discourse, in spite of the overwhelming numbers that rural India represents. True, India is urbanizing. All of you may know that out of the 21 megacities in the world, 3 are located in India, right? Apart from Chennai, Bombay, Mumbai, Delhi, and Calcutta are megacities. Mumbai, if it adds just another 4 million of the population, will become what is called a hyper city. And 2011 census has a peculiarity. It is for the first time in the history of independent India that the absolute increase in urban population has exceeded the absolute increase in rural population. These are all facts and figures. But despite these facts and figures, it is a sad thing that rural India remains neglected. And if the tryst with destiny, that long years ago we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes to redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially, if the tryst with destiny should not turn into a tryst with destitution, and if the locusts of despair should not destroy the harvest of Indian freedom, it's a responsibility of each and every one of us to give back something to the nation, something to the country. With this, I will start with 2 case studies. One is on water insecurity, and the other is on development versus displacement, a smaller version of what happened in Nandigram. And I would like to run through the slides and give the audience a brief feel about where the administration is going wrong, and what an administrator with a human touch, what you and I with a human touch can do to ensure that something is given back to Mother India from what we have learned. So the first is about water insecurity. I have titled it as Water Insecurity, the Plachimada Struggle. This talks about a multinational company and the way in which it has exploited the underground resources of this country and resulted in a chaotic situation. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. You can run through 2-3 slides. Just give me the 4th slide. Next. Okay. You must all be aware of India's water policy framework. We have something called a water policy. Though it appears to be very good on record, the reality is that it is not being implemented in letter and spirit. The national water policy stresses on the private sector participation in policy. And it says that private sector participation should be encouraged in planning, development, and management of water resource projects for diverse users. And it may help in introducing innovative, back here. Just go back 1 slide. In innovative corporate management and improving service efficiency and accountability to users, and depending upon the specific situation, in building, operating, leasing, and transferring of water resource facilities may be considered. It's good on record. It is something like PPP. You are all aware of private-public partnership. One of my former bosses has likened PPP to growing of a cow, to nurturing of a cow. In which don't misunderstand me for the analogies. In which the private sector takes the entire back portion of the cow. It takes the milk, it takes the cow dung, it takes everything. And the public sector or the government, whatever it is, it takes over the front portion of the cow. So feeding every day. This is not always the scenario. The PPP, the government has come up with a public-private partnership policy of 2011, which speaks about how PPPs can be useful in our infrastructure. See, private-public partnership is good in developing a port. It is good in developing an airport. It is good in developing infrastructure, so long as it does not hurt the felt needs of the common man on the ground. This is what I am trying to prove from a small case study. Next, please. So this is all good on record, and this is what happened in the field. This is Coca-Cola. Don't run fast, okay. Plachimada is a sleeping village located in Palakkad district of Kerala. It's a predominantly agricultural area, and paddy is a dominant crop. And the Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages Private Limited established a unit in 1998-99 in a 40-acre plot in this place. It was given the license to establish a unit in 1999 for producing the Coca-Cola which you and I drink, and 200 truckloads of beverage containing 550 to 600 cases were to be produced every day. And believe me, this was the amount of groundwater required to be extracted. Look at the whopping figure. It is 6 lakh liters of groundwater extracted from 65 borewells dug on the land. And the reality is that on extraction of this, it violates 3 international legal regimes, not just the Indian legal regime. I'm talking about the international regime. The American common law of reasonable use rule, the restatement of torts reasonable use, and the doctrine of correlative rights governing the use of groundwater. And Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, which says a right to live, and which includes right to water, of course, is a fundamental right. You must all be aware that right to environment is also a fundamental right under the Indian Constitution. The Maneka Gandhi case, the famous Maneka Gandhi case, and the Dehradun Quarries case has extended the right to life to include right to a safe environment also. So this is a clear violation of these regimes as well as Article 21, and any reasonable thinking person can find that if 6 lakh liters of groundwater is to be extracted from a 40-acre plot through 65 dug wells, Bapre, what is going to happen? And now see what happened next. The pumping of water resulted in scarcity of drinking water in the village. There's a heavy pollution by factory effluents. The presence of heavy metals, lead, cadmium in quantities higher than the approved limit in the sludge supplied by the company, and a heavy dumping of the sludge in the agricultural field. This was the result in 4 years. Administration slept. Nothing happened for 4 years. And see, on 7th April 2003, the village panchayat of the area, under public pressure, took a decision to cancel the license agreement granted to the company. And see what happened. The decision was challenged by the company in the High Court. And on 16th December 2003, the High Court directed the company to find out alternative sources of water. So the High Court was also pro-people in that. And ordered the panchayat not to interfere with the working of the company if it used alternative resources. Very good order on record. Directed the company to use only the quantity of water which was available to the owner of 34 acres of land. And there is a figure in that which shows that the water is much less than the 6 lakh liters which I showed you. Then what happened? Next please. Nothing happened on the ground again. The company continued its work, blatantly and openly challenging the law of the land. And then the people had to organize. On January 15, 2005, the local community people demanded the permanent closure of the company. And the Coca-Cola Viruddha Samiti, which is basically the Malayalam for Anti-Coca-Cola People Struggle Committee, and the Plachimada Solidarity Committee led the movement against Coca-Cola in Plachimada. And people representing the 5 most affected colonies who belong to those tribal communities held demonstrations. They held a sit-in because, their livelihood was affected. It was a sleeping village. These people were surviving on agriculture. And they picketed the factory, and then the panchayat refused to renew the license. This is how a people's movement. See what happened in the Anna Hazare movement. I am not a supporter or an opposer or anything of that kind. I am just telling you the facts. I happen to be an election observer in Uttar Pradesh, in charge of Kanpur district, Kanpur division to be more specific. It was Kanpur, Ramabai Nagar, Oraiya, Etava, Farrukhabad and Kanauj. So this is happy homecoming for me. And believe me, in the urban areas, the demand was for 49O. Do you know what is 49O? 49O is a provision, the Representation of People's Act of 1951, which says that ये सब लोग चोर है, किसी को भी मैं वोट देना नहीं चाहता हूं, I will register my protest and walk out. This is 49O. There is such a provision in the Indian legal system. And believe me, there was a lot of demand from the educated people for 49O. What was the reason behind it? The citizens' consciousness, which was developed as a result of the Anna movement. See what happened, the very unfortunate incident that happened in Delhi recently. The public outcry was so huge that now the government is thinking of amending the act. Right? It is not that such an incident has never happened in the past. But see the amount of public consciousness that has built up and which has ensured that the government is made right. This is where you and I can play a role. Next, please. The Coca-Cola company again appealed to High Court. I am not going to the result. An expert panel has been formed, and the company was stating that the company is accountable for damages to the village economy and its environment. I hope you have heard about the principles of strict liability and absolute liability. The Bhopal gas tragedy and its aftermath, which brought into for the Environment Protection Act of 1986. So it says that the company should pay adequate compensation to the affected people for agricultural losses, health problems, and pollution of water resources. Next slide, please. Okay, this is an extension of that, and this is the 2162.6 million. This is what has been ordered, and the government is sitting on it, and I'm afraid that another people's agitation is necessary to make it a reality. Next, please. Mailamma, anti-Kola woman leader, unpathed. She's an illiterate woman, illiterate tribal woman living in that village. She belonged to the native tribal community in her 60s with her 4 children. She was a face that appeared at the Satyagrahis, at the Satyagraha site every day, the public face of the campaigning, maintained a democratic intervention. Unfortunately, she died in 2007. Single woman who made the whole village listen to the realities. She is not literate like you or me. I'm just reminded of the famous words, education does not begin with the learning of the alphabet. Literacy is not the end of education, nor even the beginning of it. It begins with a mother's look, a father's nod of approbation, a sister's gentle pressure of the hand, a brother's noble act of forbearance. I come from the most literate state in the country, but it will be miles and miles before I can say that I come from the most educated state in the country. If literacy means that you are dumping your garbage into your neighbor's plot when he is not watching, which is what is happening, I'm afraid that is not education by any means. Next slide, please. So in a broader context, I would say that successfully resisting the advance of corporate hegemony through democratic mediation, protest and negotiation, Plachimada became a metaphor for a political village society of contemporary times. And the issues are not that should be of concern to the village community alone. It falls in the remit of the larger resistance against multinational power. See, involving private sector per se is not bad. I am not somebody who says that private sector should not be involved at all. Private sector, the resources have to be tapped for the welfare of the nation. But the moment it starts overstepping its mandate, the moment it starts affecting the livelihood of the common man in the street, I feel that it should be opposed tooth and nail. And educated people like you and me, we should not just put our hands off and say that, okay, something is happening to our nation. You know, the canker of corruption is eating into the moral fabric of the nation. And this was again a story of corruption. It was not that the policy makers did not understand from the document that 6 lakh liters, if it is extracted from 40 acres, hell would break loose. They definitely had the common sense to understand it. But when the canker of corruption is eating into the moral fabric of the nation, when need-based and greed-based corruption are becoming the order of the day, it is a duty of you and me to oppose it. And I feel what sculpture is to a block of marble, education is to the human soul, the philosopher, the saint, the hero, all lie hidden in a plebeian which only a proper education can disinter and bring to light. If that is a definition of education, the onus is upon you and me to build up a strong India, to ensure that each drop of your blood is dedicated to the regeneration of a powerful India. And that is where I believe that wherever you are working, in whichever area you are working, you have to be sensitive to the problems of the common man. Next, please. Next. These are the suggestions which include encouraging environmental conservation. I will not go into those details. Next, please. So now we can switch over to the next presentation, which is again development versus displacement, the billion-dollar question. No, that one, Mullampalli, yes. Go to slideshow. This is a second case study which I am going to bring to you, and after that I will wind up with the closing remarks and leave the floor open for discussions. Yes, please. See, any kind of development should be for the people and not for the state. The felt needs of the people should be the foremost in the minds of the policymakers. But very unfortunately, the concept of welfare state has been progressively destabilized and discredited and the rows of the ideological rust between the state and the market, and the shifts in economic policy entailed by the development of LPG, liberalization, privatization, and globalization. See, land acquisition starting from your Nandigram or whatever it is, the land acquisition is still modeled on an archaic legislation called the Land Acquisition Act of 1894 as amended in 1984 with a few more amendments in 2007 and 2011. The heart of what I am going to tell you is that if you want a new road, if you want a new landmark to come up, let the real man in the street be compensated to a great extent. I will tell you an example of Neyveli Lignite Company. Neyveli is a place located in Tamil Nadu, where there is a major lignite company of the NTPC. It resulted in displacement of a number of farmers from agricultural land. The market value that was fixed was, believe me, 200 rupees per cent. You will not get anything for that. So what happened is that the poor people have been displaced and practically now they are forced to become bonded laborers elsewhere, though bonded labor is abolished in this country. So it is in this context that I would like to analyze this case study. Next slide, please. The model of development adopted by the Indian state after independence is unfortunately economically inequitable, environmentally unsustainable, and politically less democratic in its denial of the rights of equal citizenship. Next, please. And to quote none other than Amartya Sen, development is a process of expanding the real freedoms that people enjoy. I repeat, development is a process of expanding the real freedoms that people enjoy. And this requires the removal of the major source of unfreedom, which is not only poverty but also tyranny, economic opportunities, as well as systematic social deprivation, neglect of public facilities, as well as intolerance or overactivity of repressive states. So this is it is in this framework that I would like to give you a case study of development versus displacement. Next, please. I told you this is the Colonial Act primarily. Next, please. Has anyone of you seen this disheartening figure? This is a collection made by an NGO in an unpublished work. This work has been given to Government of India and Government of India has not denied its authenticity. Just see the innumerable displacement that has taken place. Water, industry, mines, power, defense, environment, transport, refugees, farms, human resource development, health, administration, welfare, tourism, urban development, and others. Do you see the staggering figure? Andhra, Jharkhand, Kerala, Orissa, Assam, Bengal, Gujarat, Goa, these are the available figures. And just see the huge displacement which has taken place in the name of development. Can you see those figures?
Sir, what is unit?
Excuse me?
Unit.
What
is 23296?
No, the number of people who have been displaced due to projects coming up in the waterfront, due to dams. You may have heard of the Tehri Dam. The Tehri Dam is located in Uttarakhand. I was recently an election observer in Tehri, Gadwal, and I found the villages and villages displaced in the name of the project. I am not against development. Please don't misunderstand. I only feel that the state has failed in ensuring adequate rehabilitation to the displaced victims. And even the figures are not available properly with the government. Just look at the enormous figures. And these are the causes. And believe me, Government of India does not have any statistics for this. And I don't have the statistics for the remaining states. I only have the total figure. So why is this happening? Next, please. So the National Rehabilitation and Resettlement Policy of 2007 defines land acquisition as acquisition of land under the Land Acquisition Act and upholds the sovereign power of the state to apply the concept of eminent domain to forcibly acquire any private property in any part of the country. But do you know that out of this property that is acquired, what percentage is put to the real use for which it was intended for? There are many lands that have been acquired for particular projects which are dropped halfway down. The poor people have been displaced. Not even NHRC is listening to them. Very unfortunate. So this is a case study from Kerala. Next, please. Okay, these are the clauses. I will not run through that. Next, please. This also clauses. Next. Okay. This is where from Plachimada I will switch over to Mulampally. Mulampally is a small island located 6 kilometers from Cochin. You may have heard of Trivandrum, Cochin and Calicut. They are our three main cities. And Cochin is a booming city of Kerala. There are 600 families staying in this island. And the people include peasants, agricultural laborers, and fisher folk. The island is with rice fields, coconut groves, maze of waterways, etc. And most of the families are depending on agriculture for their livelihood. The land of 22 families was taken over for the construction of what is called the International Carrier Transshipment Terminal from this island. And out of these, 12 families were compelled to part with their land. They were evicted without proper rehabilitation facilities. Still on the road. Very unfortunate. From 2008. I will narrate the story again. Next. This was a promise of the government. All the evicted families will be provided with land. This came as a press release. No formal agreement. So not enforceable in a court of law. Very unfortunate. Those who lost less than 5 cents of land will be allocated with 5 cents of land. Those who lost more than 5 cents will be allocated 6 cents. Educated member from each family will be given employment. No tax or cash compensation. This was a promise. Okay. The story of 22 families who have utterly, who are in utter despair, primarily because of the fact that they do not have voting power. Their votes do not count. The number of votes per family is 5 or 6. Who bothers if they have only 130 odd votes? Is the state being really sympathetic to the felt needs of the common man? Next slide, please. The government later disagreed to provide employment to the families. The land allotted to them is called bhumi, which means that unsuitable for any agricultural purpose. Compensation given amounted from 5,000 to 30,000%, but the real cost was 200%. The money that was given as compensation was totally insufficient for the rehabilitation. Next, please. The authorities did not give the people any written agreement on the rehabilitation. Again, how many of us are able to walk the talk? $1 billion question. How many of us really implement our words which we speak from the tabletop? I heard of a story of a philosopher with malice towards none. The philosopher used to tell his disciples, take everything very coolly. You have to be calm even in the face of despair. So one day the disciple lost his mother. He was crying very profusely. The philosopher said, why are you crying? Your presence in the world itself is a temporary phenomenon. You are not the first person in the world to lose your mother. So you should compose yourself. The disciple heard this. And within 24 hours, he regained his old wisdom advised by his senior guru. 1 week passed. The disciples saw the guru walking up and down, cursing everybody in the world. The disciple asked Guruji, what has happened? He said, I am having a very bad tooth pain. Paining in my tooth like anything. So he was cursing everybody. Then disciple asked him, sir, you told me that last day you told me. So you are not the first person to have toothache in the world. And that was your mother, this is my tooth. So that is a syndrome. That is a syndrome which we have to get out. All of us are drops in the ocean. All of us are cogs in the hierarchy. But let each cog work, have a spine, and say that this is wrong when he sees something is wrong. And that is what each and every one of you can do. And when each and every one of us does the same, the system gets some improvement. You know what happened in the Ramlila Maidan to begin with? Then I'm not talking about the later story. The entire government was focused on that issue. It was able to bring to light a particular problem faced by the Aam Aadmi in the street, which is corruption. Need-based and greed-based corruption, which is unfortunately becoming the order of the day. It's a reality. And you and I can fight against that. And this is such a case study. And houses were demolished by bulldozer. What does a poor fellow can do? Bulldozer is coming and demolishing his own house. Squads of laborers, large force of policemen. No time to remove even their household articles. Demolition team took over 14 houses, threatened the family of one Johnson, who did not give any consent and did not receive any compensation earlier. This is what a democratic state should do. And believe me, the land acquired is still to be used for the terminal. People are saying that Vallarpadam terminal is coming up. Otherwise, Sri Lanka will get all the benefits. Yeah. Let the terminal come up. But you should be sensitive to the problems of the poor man also. Don't be sensitive to this problem only once in 5 years. Only once in 5 years you may need their vote. But if democracy stands for a government of the people, for the people, and by the people, I am afraid that you will have to listen to the realities of the world. Next, please. Okay, this is the court order which followed. Next, please. Next. There should be an involvement of the people who are affected. And also specialists trying to lessen the communal, monetary, emotional and environmental impact of acquisition. If my land is taken away, it is not just monetary. I have a certain attachment to it, right? Nobody bothers about my emotional attachment. And from the Mulambali experience, it is clear that the colonial model with its anti-people character is continuing. And let us see what happened later. Next. Another major problem which government says that they will solve is the solid waste problem. You are all aware of the solid waste problem which we are all facing. Not throwing garbage into the neighbor's house, that is different. So it says that a 5-fold increase in global waste generation is possible by 2025. And this is an area where unfortunately government has totally failed. And I will show you how a literate state like Kerala has now failed in solid waste management. And do you know what is the quantum of solid waste that each and every one of us generate? It is 0.17 kilogram per person per day as per the figures of the government of India. 0.17 kilogram. And next slide, please. And just see this domestic waste composition for selected major cities. Go to India. See, in India, 58% is vegetable waste, 5.9% is paper waste, 3.6% is textile waste, and glass is only 0.3. Herein lies a solution to the solid waste problem in India. Vegetable waste is biodegradable, right? If segregation takes place at source, if you and I take a pledge that we will segregate our waste at source, if there is community participation in this, at least 30%, at least 70% of our solid waste management problem will be solved. But very unfortunately, segregation at source is not taking place. You see 2 bins everywhere. Have you seen what that fellow comes who takes these bins? He will come in a lorry. Ye bhi usme dalega, wo bhi usme dalega. This is what happens. In US, they segregate even based on the color of the glass. Here, why can't we at least segregate based on at least dry waste and wet waste? Next, please. So it is here that community-based approaches can bring about a radical change, and through participation, inclusiveness, responsiveness, and incremental approaches, these approaches can go a long way. And I will show you why what Kerala has faced in this recently. Next slide, please. You can run through that. Next, 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 next. Yeah, this is the Trivandrum scenario. You see that in Trivandrum, residential waste is 53%, commercial waste is 7.75%, street sweeping is 18.13%. And believe me, a large percentage of this waste is biodegradable. But what has happened in the field? Next slide, please. More than 50% of the solid waste generated in Trivandrum city comes from residential buildings, and the city collects 30 to 35 crores every year as own source income. What is the fundamental duty of a municipality under the 74th Constitutional Amendment? Maintaining your streets clean. Is for that you are paying that huge tax. But what is coming out of that? And what is happening in the field? Next slide, please. For the collection mechanism, the city corporation has provided workers. The green bucket is used to store, white bucket to collect non-degradable, and a monthly fee of 40 rupees is assigned, but the system is not working at present. Why? Next. 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 Okay. This is the present situation. You have mixed waste, you have collecting agents. It is going to the treatment plant. Untreated garbage 80%, treated garbage 20%, it goes to the landfill. This is what is happening in the field. So what are the problems? You know that there is water contamination, spread of diseases, air pollution, non-availability of land for landfill. What is the ideal solution? You have a decentralized thing where you have a home garbage treatment plant going to treated garbage, house-to-house collection, and the inorganic waste less than 5% going for the landfill. You know, the so-called intelligentsia in the city have been advising to go in for a decentralized system, at least for the past 5 years. But nothing has happened so far. But you will see something happen in the coming few days. I will tell you the reason. Next slide, please. Now, the people of Vilappilshala is a place where the landfill site is located. have organized and formed Janagiya Samiti to protect against garbage disposal in that village. High Court has interfered and the court has ordered police protection for what? For assuming the operation of the garbage treatment plant. So now next slide please. Next. No, before this. On 18th February 2012, the Panchayat representatives locked the plant. It was a culmination of a long struggle by the Janagiya Samiti. The police had to resort to a mild lathi charge and use tear gas shells to scare away the unruly mob. You know what this unruly mob is doing? Merely taking the waste to the landfill, nothing more. They are doing it legally. You call them unruly in Ramlila Maidan also. And the corporation alleges that they had not been able to implement the High Court order. The reality in the field is that the problem of garbage in the city is still continuing. Why? It has become a political problem. The Panchayat where the landfill site is located is ruled by one political party. The corporation with the mayor and the others is ruled by another political party. And now what is happening is that the city is stinking. Next slide please, I will show you how the city is stinking. In Trivandrum city, the city corporation and state government are engaged in a tug of war over waste disposal. People living in compact spaces are caught between dealing with stinking garbage at home and inviting fine for disposal of the waste in public places. With no common or private space outside their houses, they have no option but to leave the waste in available public space, which has become a punishable offense. Until a few months ago, corporation workers used to come. Now that is not working. The common citizen is helpless. This is people living in the city where I come from are the receiving end of a garbage crisis. So I thought that I will bring these three case studies before you. One is on water insecurity, what a multinational corporation has done. One is development versus displacement, and the third is solid waste, which is a politically created problem. And I will leave the floor open to you for questions whether democracy really means a government of the people, by the people and for the people, and whether the governments are doing according to the felt needs of these. I will just conclude, go to that and go to the concluding two slides. Just run through that. Next. Aram se jao yaar. Aram se jao. Next. So I will just conclude by saying that perhaps it is time to amplify the long marginalized voice of the common man in the street and awaken to the realization that only through the establishment of a people-friendly grassroots tradition can one create a sustainable framework, whether it be in solid waste management or whether it be anything else. And the challenges that modern society faces have been amply summarized in the famous words of Vangari Mattai in her Nobel lecture. Very, very heartfelt words. It says that I reflect on my childhood experience. When I visit a stream next to our home to fetch water for my mother, I would drink water straight from the stream. Playing among the arrowroot leaves, I tried in vain to pick up the strands of frog sacks, believing they were beads. But every time I put my little fingers under them, they would break. Later I saw thousands of tadpoles, black, energetic, wriggling through the clear water against the background of the brown earth. This is the world I inherited from my parents. Next please. Today, over 50 years later, the stream has dried up. Women walk long distances for water, which is not always clean, and children will never know what they have lost. The challenge is to restore the home of the tadpoles and give back to our children a world of beauty, a world of wonder. Next slide, please. And I, the only Indian in my turban and closed coat, it dawned on one that I was really representing my people and my country. I felt truly humbled when I received the prize. It's a Nobel Prize from King Gustav. It was a moment of great emotion, but I could restrain myself. And then I turned around and saw the Union Jack under which I had been sitting. It was then that I realized that my poor country, India, did not even have a flag of her own. It was this that triggered off my complete breakdown. Success can only come to you by courageous devotion to the task lying in front of you. There is nothing worth in this world that can come without the sweat of our brow. I can assert without fear of contradiction that the quality of the Indian mind is equal to the quality of any Teutonic, Nordic or Anglo-Saxon mind. What we lack is perhaps courage. What we lack is perhaps driving force which takes one anywhere. We have, I think, developed an inferiority complex. I think what is needed in India today is a destruction of the defeatist spirit. We need a spirit of victory, a spirit that would carry us to our rightful place under the sun, a spirit which will recognize that we as the inheritors of a proud civilization are entitled to a rightful place on this planet. If that indomitable spirit were to arise, nothing can hold us from achieving our rightful destiny. Dear friends, ambition is the spur that makes one struggle with destiny. It is God's own incentive to make purpose great and achievement greater. There is no substitute for hard work. Set a goal, work hard, success will come to you. Make reading an integral part of your life. I'm speaking to my younger brothers. I'm at least 2 times elder than you. Books are really king's treasures. Treasures filled not with gold, silver, or other precious stones, but with riches much more valuable than this. Knowledge, noble thoughts, high ideals. Poor indeed is the man who does not read, and empty is his life. So do not rest on the oars. You have miles to go. God be with you. I will conclude by quoting from Mata Amrita Mayi, of whom I am a devotee. My PhD is from her university. She says, today, the effort is to air condition the external world. But air conditioning the external alone does not help. There are many who live in air-conditioned rooms who need sleeping pills to sleep. Am I right? Therefore, the challenge is to air condition your mind. For that, the control of the mind must be firmly in your hands. As the mother of Sri Aurobindo Ashram said, do not pretend, be. Do not dream, realize. Not only think, act. In some faint dawn, in some dim eve, like a gesture of light, like a dream of delight, I'm sure that this Swami Vivekananda convention can definitely attain its noble objectives. For it was the Swamiji who said that what India wants is men and women with muscles of iron, nerves of steel, and gigantic wills, which nothing can resist, which can penetrate into the innermost secrets of life. So, arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. Thank you.
Sir, I recently read a few articles and most of them concentrated on one thought, that whenever there is any developmental project which is targeted at villagers, tribals or Adivasi areas, most of the time they are not even consulted for what they want.
You are absolutely right. The R&R policy, you know, R&R, rehabilitation and resettlement, largely remains on record. It is very unfortunate. I am not talking about the Narmada Bijavo Andolan of Medhapatkar or anything of that kind. But in general, the felt needs of the common man are not properly reflected in the policies. That's a reality. And that is where I think that we have to make a difference. 2 roads diverge in a wood. And I took the one less traveled, and that has made the difference. That is what Robert Frost told us. So let us all take the road less traveled, the road of truth, which unfortunately is less traveled. So my exhortation to young boys and girls like you will be that wherever you are working, whichever field you are working, please listen to your conscience and do accordingly. And you will not repent for it. Believe me, you will not repent for it. The amount of satisfaction that you derive out of that is unimaginable. But the number of people who tread that path is unfortunately diminishing day by day. That is what I said. Conscientization of the rural masses is a must if India has to be awakened. And this is an area where you and I can play an important role. Why are the rural masses not able to change the system? It's primarily because they feel that if they complain to the leadership, nothing will come out of that. Which is a sad reality also. Try to change it. I will tell you a small thing I have done. I am a drop in the ocean. I am nobody in the society, but I am a drop in an ocean. Let me tell you what a small thing I have done. If a poor, I am right now Commissioner Civil Supplies, as you heard. I will tell you about another story just a few minutes later. See, as Commissioner Civil Supplies, I am in charge of the public distribution system. My focus is to ensure that the poor man in the rural area gets the quantity of food grain that is assigned to him and gets fairly good quality of the food grains. I am sure that it's not happening properly. So what I have done is that I have opened a helpline, 24/7. I have made my mobile number public. If any poor man does not get the quantity of food grain that he is supposed to get, take it from me. If he calls on these helplines or on my mobile, I have ensured that action is taken within 24 hours. Small thing which I can do. So, in the first month when I started this, the number of phone calls that I used to receive was only twice a day. And you won't believe it. Now, I get at least 10 calls a day. It's going up month by month. It shows that the man now understands that, okay, if I call the commissioner, something may come out of that. And believe me, there have been frivolous complaints also. All the complaints are not, have not been true to their conscience. TK here. Andhra has a policy, the government of Andhra Pradesh or the people of Andhra Pradesh in general have a policy that they don't mind an ineligible beneficiary coming in if all eligible beneficiaries are covered under the scheme. Something is better than nothing, right? So this is where you have to wake up rural India from its slumber. And this can be done only through a systematic process involving you and me. And believe me, it needs a lot of hard work. See, I can very well be seated in my office just seeing the files and not attending to this. I will get my salary. But no, that's not what I'm paid for. I'm paid for serving the poor man. And that is where I feel that my heart should lie. It's the crippled, the unwanted, the uncared for. In their service lies the service of the nation. Therein lies God. Where else lies God? And the satisfaction that I have derived out of it is tremendous. I'm just quoting my personal example. Don't misunderstand me. I'm just saying that I'm with a face, I am just a drop in an ocean. I hope that answers your question to some extent.
That is how incorporate the accountability to the bureaucratic structure. But how are the politicians accountable, held accountable? We talk of the Lokpal bill, but that seems
I will tell you, I understand what you are saying. See, you and I are incompetent to change the system overnight. But we can change the system slowly and slowly. I will tell you, if no bureaucrat in this country is ready to budge, if all the bureaucrats in this country say that they will not write a wrong thing on the file, how many politicians will dare to take a wrong decision? The fault lies in us. Okay, you have been transferred 110 times. To tell you a story, I got a call just half an hour before I came. I'm no longer Commissioner of Civil Supplies. Take it with happiness here. I tried to change the system. I'm thrown out. Doesn't matter. The next man will come. If the next man is also ready to change the system will change. And let me tell you frankly, quite a few of my brethren, quite a few of my service officers are now very happy with the transfer if they have succeeded in changing the system to some extent. There are no roses without thorns. If you accept a rose, you take a thorn also. So it is therein that your mind comes in. It is therein that your courage comes in. It is therein that the support in the society comes in. And you know, the face of a poor man who has received a legal thing, it's not an illegal thing, from you, the happiness with which he comes to you tomorrow, what is a bigger job satisfaction than that? So I feel that if everybody in the system is ready to stand up and say no, the politician will be helpless to do something wrong. Take any file of any scam. Do you think that any scam is possible without the bureaucracy's concurrence? I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm just pointing a finger at the system. The system has to improve. The system means you and I. So each of us has to improve. So long as you don't look at the profession as a money spinner, so long as you are ready to look at your job as a way of serving the poor man of this country, thing is done. You know, I belong to the second batch of computer science from IIT Madras. There are 26 are abroad. I'm the only one left in India. And do you know what my salary was when I entered the service? It was 3,121 rupees, Indian rupees, not less. I did it, yeah. I did not go for, I did not enter this job for making billions. I did to say that something where I can give it to society. And when I say something, I fully understand that I am nobody to change the system. But I can make my humble contributions. I am an Indian. I hope that sentiment, when Indira Gandhi in her last speech said that each and every drop of your blood will invigorate the nation. Each and every one of your activities should invigorate the nation, should invigorate the country where which we belong. Whatever the obstacles may be. I hope. I'm sorry for being slightly emotional, but I hope that answers your questions.
Good afternoon, sir.
I'm not able to see you. Yeah, please.
Good afternoon, sir. Thanks for coming into IIT Kanpur and addressing us.
Thanks for giving me this wonderful opportunity.
So I have two questions.
Yeah.
First question is regarding the need of the democratic reformist tools in our India. Because right now what is happening, as you told in the lecture, that for 5 years, after the 5 year, politicians come to our doors and ask for the votes. But during the 5 year tenure, the policy makers do not understand the need of the people.
You are right.
So I think, don't we need the tools like referendum and initiative, as in the some European countries? First thing, this is the first question, and the second question is regarding the new scheme. This is a cash transfer subsidy scheme. So don't you think the loopholes in that scheme is more than the benefits, or means the need of that scheme?
Okay, I will go the second question first. You are perfectly correct in saying that the second system is also fraught with its defects, so a discussion is taking place and a decision may change in the coming days to come. But as regards to your first question, I feel that the first thing we should do is to use the tools that are already there in the system. I will tell you a simple example. I am sure all of you have heard of MG Narega, right? Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act and Scheme. Do you know what is the average annual expenditure per district on the scheme? It's 100 crores. And do you know what is the average annual expenditure of all the government schemes taken together in each of the 600 odd districts in India? 1,300 crores. If this money is to reach the poor, what transformations would have been brought in India by now? So what I was talking of is that MG Narega has an inbuilt mechanism. It is called social audit. I hope you are aware of that. Social audit basically talks about a feedback and control mechanism where you can point out the defects in the system. And whatever defects you point out in the system will have to be taken into consideration while implementing the project. But how much of contribution of social audit has really gone in the system? The reality is that the powers that be have tried to kill the social audit. Second, Gram Sabhas. You have heard of Gram Sabhas, I hope so. The 73rd Constitutional Amendment brings forth something called Gram Sabha. Gram Sabha is comprised of all the elders, all the people who have voting rights. And only Gram Sabha is eligible to select the beneficiaries for the various schemes. What is happening? So my humble supposition is that the system itself has a lot of checks and balances within. While reforms, no doubt a must. Let us start making use of these systems first. Let us make sure that whoever does not make use of the system is shown his place. I hope that makes some sense to you. And at the second stage, definitely we can think of reforms. But I genuinely feel that what is needed is first make use of the systems. Rather than cribbing over the system, let us make use of the checks and balances within the system first. And then make sure that we go in for the reforms. See, a simple thing which I would point out to you is election. You know what was the electoral reforms in India pre-TN session era and post-TN session era? Post-TN session era, each and every one of the politicians is scared of the Election Commission of India, right? Whoever does any mischief is scared of the Election Commission of India. When we were probationers at the academy, Mr. TN Session came to our academy and said that it is session for nation. I fully agree with his words. He told us that I am session for the nation. If each and every one of us believe that whatever little thing you can reform, you reform it. Let the reform start from your doorstep. I will tell you a simple example. Let all of us take a pledge that we will segregate our solid waste and not throw the solid waste into the next man's ground. Small beginning. Second beginning, let us all pledge that we will all take part in whatever Gram Sabhas we are members. We are all parts of that democratic system. How many of us are doing that? So that is what I said, that we should walk the talk. We should not only talk but also walk that talk. I am not criticizing anybody, I am just thinking aloud. Please.
We don't have the direct contact or the direct discourse with the government during the five-year tenure. Do you think that?
No, that is what I am saying. See, I will tell you how we bring into direct contact. I will tell you a simple example. There is a social worker in a particular district in Kerala. He is an IITian. That's not why the reason I respect him. Of course, I have a lot of respect for IITians. But you know what he is basically doing? Wherever he finds that there is a poor citizen nearby who is deprived of a certain government service, he makes it a point to help this fellow to his level best. And I feel that he is doing a great service for the nation. During the 9 months I held the post of Civil Supplies Commissioner, this gentleman has brought before me 50 people who are genuinely BPL, you know BPL, right? Below poverty line, but have been deprived of a BPL card. And he has brought me 55 or 60 cases of ineligible families. I will tell you, a person working in a government job is getting a BPL card. So he has brought up these lights, and he is not doing only in Civil Supplies Department. And believe me, he is doing it part-time. He is doing it part-time. So he is sensitive to whatever the problems take place in the village around him. All that I was saying is that if all of us open our eyes and ears, after all, government is a part of the system, government is a mirror of society. The system will change slowly, maybe the changes will take place slowly, but the changes will be slow but sure, right?
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir,
Yeah, can I have one of you first? Yeah.
good evening, sir. So I wanted to ask, I belong to the state of UP, and as you know, it is the second largest state.
I know.
So, sir, sir, there due to
I
the
worked
wide
very
variety-
closely with the state of UP in the sense that I was election observer near Siddhartha Nagar, that is near Lumbini, Kapilvastu, that area, near Gorakhpur. I was there in a by-election called Domaria Ganj, and you may be knowing that was the first election in which webcasting was introduced in UP. Second, last election I was in charge of Kanpur division, and third I was in charge, on the election day I was in charge of Agra in a place called Etmadpur. And after that I came to a place called Bahraich. Bahraich is near your Barabanki. So I have a lot of respect for you. So please tell me.
Sir, due to the large diversity, there's a lot of incorporation of this caste system into the politics, and it is used by many of the demagogues to fight the elections, not for the purpose of those people, but for their own gains. And after the 5-year period, they come with the same problems. Then the question is what they did in these 5 years for them, if they are coming back with the same problems for them. So, sir, how to fight with this?
This is why, see, you will not believe me when I say that Kerala politics also has these problems. That is what I meant when saying that literacy does not mean education. Literacy does not mean education by it means. Awakening Mother India means 3 things. One is making the people understand their real problems. The real problems in India, you know, right from poverty to whatnot. Second, making the people themselves arrive at solutions to these problems. That is what we are trying to do through Grams of Power, whatever it is. I'm not saying that there's success. Third, implementing these in the field with people participation as the bedrock. If this becomes a reality, I'm sure that all these narrow walls will slowly wither away. Think about the social revolution which has taken place in this country for the past, say, 200 years. Is India today the same society as it was 200 years ago? What has been the role of social revolutionaries, like from the days of Sri Narayana Guru in Kerala to whatnot? So I am sure that if all these are actually exploiting the poor illiterate masses, right? The poor man who does not even have a morsel of bread, he is carried away by certain sentiments which he does not understand are being misused to his chagrin. This is where real education should come. This is where real awakening should come. And this is where I feel that you and I, the so-called educated people, can play an important role. How many of us have really visited the villages and really learned their problems? It includes me also. I'm not saying that I am an exception. So we should understand that our heart and soul lies in India. And our heart and soul lies in the so-called illiterate masses who constitute a large percentage of our population. And making a frontal assault on the citadels of the real problems in the field is what should be our contribution back to the society. It doesn't mean that you have to be a civil servant. It doesn't mean that you should not work in the private sector. You should have a heart that beats for the common man. a heart that beats for the poor of this country. And that should not be a mere talk, should be walking the talk. Bring these problems to the attention of the authorities. To act as change agents, act as catalytic agents. As I told you about the IITN who is doing that, he is bringing these problems to the attention of the government. There is a program called Sutarya Kerala, it means Transparent Kerala, which is run by the Chief Minister. I am sure that all the states have a similar program. It's a phone-in program. You can call at pre-designated hours. And believe me, this man is always there on the line in every week with at least 3 problems which are not his. What are the problems of the man in the field? And you know, it has worked. It has really worked wonders. And he is really worshipped by the common man there. And despite the worship, he is down to earth, continues this. Don't be carried away by your achievements, and don't think that you are the only person who can change the world. But you can also make a contribution, a humble contribution. So this is what I thought that each and every one of us should do.
I'm sorry, folks, we have time for just a couple of more questions.
Yeah, please.
So don't you think that the corruption is not a recent issue? The government favoring the corporations has started from the times of Mahatma Gandhi.
You are right.
Prashant's builder was a close aide of Mahatma Gandhi, and today builders are about $1 billion.
You are right. I don't say that corruption is not as old as democracy. Or corruption is not as old as... I don't say that. But I'm only saying that now corruption has become a source of living for some people. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. We should not take it for granted that decentralization of power or democratization means decentralization of corruption. We should not take that for granted. Our aim is to bring down corruption to whatever level we can. And you and I can make our humble contributions to that. I will tell you about the Right to Public Services Act. You have heard of that, right? Right to Public Services Act is now brought forth in Bihar, Karnataka, and 3 more states. I think Orissa, Rajasthan, and one more state. It is not there in our state. You know what it is? It is in Karnataka, it is run through what is called a Sakala centers. Sakala means in type. You apply for a particular service, you can get it within a certain period. It's a right beginning. And you know who were the people behind the formulation of such a regime like RTI and Sakala and Right to Public Services? It was our own brethren. It was our own brethren, including Kejriwal or Aruna or whoever it is, who said that the state has a certain duty towards its citizens. When you are talking about fundamental rights and fundamental duties, there are certain duties of the state as well, which you have to conscientize. So building up such a framework can definitely help in reducing corruption, because if you apply for a ration card and if you are sure you will get it within 3 days, who will go and bribe here? Right? So that is where transparency, accountability, good governance, effectiveness and efficiency has to be brought to the doorsteps of the people. And that is where you and I can make a difference. If a poor man is not aware of it, suppose, say I had a maid coming to my house, she was not aware of these provisions. I helped her to file an RTI. Don't you think that it's a small service? These are small services which you and I can do. When you come across somebody who is ignorant, just tell him about the provisions. He is also as much a citizen as you and I are. He is also as much entitled to the bounties of the state as you and I are. I hope that answers your question.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, with this poor
Good
system
evening,
of
sir.
governance.
No, I'm taking, let me answer you. Oh, I'm not able to see the next man. Okay, can I answer him first? Okay.
So with the poor system of governance that is present in the system, do you think the state will pursue ahead with this agenda of economic liberalization, the LPG model, which it has started from the 91 era?
See, I am not against LPG per se. You have to ensure that your country is at par with other countries on the international scenario, no doubt about that. But at the same time, the winds of change should not sweep you off your foot, right? The winds of change which are blowing through the country should be aimed at ameliorating the problems of the deprived society as well. LPG does not mean that the poor man should be neglected. I will tell you a small instance. You have all seen LPG cylinders, right? I am not talking about LPG in that sense. See, Has anyone of us thought about putting a gauge in an LPG cylinder to find out whether it is empty or full? Nothing. Why? We are insensitive to the problems of the consumer in the street. We only say that the consumer is a king on record. And is a consumer really treated as a king in our own offices? The sad reality is no. And we should try to change the system, and the change should come from within. I hope that answers your question to some extent. Yeah, there was one more question.
Sir, how difficult and challenging is for the bureaucrats to survive and perform in
It is very difficult. It is very challenging.
Yes, sir.
My whole hair grade at 35 fighting against the system, but I still fight.
Yes, sir.
But I still fight. Fight because I'm sure I'm fighting for a cause. I'm not fighting for my personal satisfaction. Fight because I know that I stayed back in this country trying to deliver something to these people. And I should try to realize that at least to some extent. As I told you, my minister has been caught in a vigilance case and I was thrown out of my post. Yes, it is a price that goes with your fighting. But you know that your conscience has not lost it. You know that a poor man in the country, you know, I'm not exaggerating. At 4:40 today evening, I was transferred from this post. And believe me, I have got at least 5 calls from the poor man in the street. 5 people to whom I gave a BPL card. Don't you think that that is a good enough satisfaction for me to continue this fight? And I'm sure that I have wholehearted support of each and every one of you in this fight. And that is what keeps me going here. I may lose. See, I have never gone abroad on an official trip so far. So it's a price you have to pay for that. It's a price you have to pay for that. But if you are ready to sacrifice a principle in return for a forum tour, what is the big deal of talking about principles here? You should learn to walk the talk. That is what transparency is all about. So you are 100% sure, 100% correct. The price that is paid is tremendous.
Thank you, sir, for an awe-inspiring session. Now I would like to welcome Dr. Mishra on stage.
Nice meeting you, sir.
Just say a few words.
Oh, please.
Sir, I'm very delighted and also very thankful to Dr. Swamy to give a wonderful talk to inspire you people to work for the nation. And at the same time, I will tell you, we are forming a group known as Awake Mother India, what he has told just now. And we will have meeting on the 26th January of this month. And I hope that all of you will be a part of it and help us in starting from IITK to the way how to awake this Mother India and do something our bit as a drop in the big ocean. With this, we take this opportunity to thank him for a wonderful and very inspiring talk.
Thank you, sir. May I request Dr. Mishra to present Dr. Swamy with a shawl and memento from our side. Thank you, sir.